After 6 seasons and 86 episodes of watching the life of the New Jersey mob boss in The Sopranos, could any of us have predicted that ending? Amid the bittersweet mood of having been victorious in a mob war against a shape-shifting Persian monarch, but also, surely, being resigned to spending the rest of his life behind bars at the very least, Tony Soprano sits at Holston's, awaiting his family's arrival against the backdrop of Journey's Don't Stop Believing. Carmela arrives, then AJ. They engage in small talk and start munching on some onion rings while Meadow repeatedly tries to park her car. She rushes to the diner. Tony looks up, we cut to black, and collectively, an entire community questioned whether something was up with their TV. The Fade to Black is one of the most infamous and controversial TV show endings of all time, but you can't deny it took balls. If for nothing else, the fact that we're still sitting here talking about it almost 20 years later. Once considered a terrible ending to a masterful show, there's no stigmata these days. As time went on and the ending's impact was allowed to sink in, more and more people began to appreciate the genius conclusion to the show it actually is. Personally, I never really thought the main takeaway from the ending, the big question, was whether Tony was whacked or not. Sopranos fans often fall into two ardent groups. Either he did or he didn't, and for me, I didn't even initially realise there was doubt that he died. All the clues were there, from Bobby Bacalao's line, "You probably don't even hear it when it happens," which is later demonstrated when the hairdo is killed in front of Silvio, who doesn't hear it. Patsy saying it won't be cinematic. The two black guys at the diner. Eugene wearing a members-only jacket in the season opener and walking into a diner and shooting a man whose initials were AS. The members-only guy in the final episode going to the toilet, a la the classic scene from The Godfather. Him being at a 3 o'clock angle to Tony. And of course, Chris warned him about 3 o'clock. Perhaps a video for another day, but 3 pops up a few times in this episode. 3 pictures behind Tony, 3 Boy Scouts, 3 onion rings, Meadows' 3 parking attempts, 3 rings of the door as people walk in, 3 creams on the coffee for the man in the cap. Earlier, bright light was used to showcase Tony waking up from a coma dream, regaining consciousness, so it's sensible to suggest a cut to black would be him losing consciousness. Tony, Carmela and AJ eat their onion rings whole, like communion wafers, as this is their last supper. There's just too much evidence. A more interesting question for me was always, who killed Tony? And in order to tackle this question, we ran down some of the suspects in a previous video. Ultimately, one of the key points of the ending is that it doesn't matter whether Tony died or not. He's finished. Whether he was whacked there and then, whether he got sent to the can for 20 years, not a peep, whatever. His life is a debacle. He's lost his soul, his humanity, his last opportunity being his rehabilitation with Dr. Milfy, who has now thrown him out. But in terms of a tangible storyline to decipher the ending, I fall into the camp that the best theory is that a combination of Butch, Paulie and Patsy conspired to take Tony out, as we discussed in another video.